Hello everyone, to my 5 viewers. This is actually the second time I've had to do this video because the first time I started recording and I realized that it was showing some Illuminati bullshit in the background, which I don't know why it took me so long to figure that out. But I typed in, if you type in the Four Horsemen, and one of the things that pops up is some Illuminati bullshit. But anyway, just wanted to talk about how I became an atheist. I grew up, in fact, I still live in the Midwest in America. My father's Catholic. My grandmother's very devout Catholic. Went to church multiple times a week. She recently passed, unfortunately. But my dad's one of 6 kids. Surprising, the Catholics. But luckily, he was one of the least religious of the group, so I wasn't extremely indoctrinated, which luckily for that, because otherwise I'd probably still be very involved in the Catholic Church, which would be weird. Anyway, so at some point, let's start out with schooling and science. In middle school and high school, I had very bad science teachers. No interest in science whatsoever. I did not care. Didn't interest me. And it's not that I necessarily think it was because they were religious. I just think they were bad. They just sucked at their jobs. But anyway, so I still believed, and I still denied evolution, which is very foolish and embarrassing for me. And at one point I realized, I don't know. I used to actually debate for religion. I have a friend who's, I don't know if he's ever actually called himself an atheist, but he's just, I don't know, he used to kind of challenge me a little bit, and I'd debate him, and I'm kind of embarrassed about that too now, but I think it was just because I wanted to believe. I wanted to believe that everyone's point of view and personality and, individual experiences never died, kind of continued on. It was probably more selfish reasons than anything. But at one point I started watching Penn and Teller's bullshit. And I've always kind of had conservative leanings, borderline libertarian, which, if you can't tell by my name, I consider myself a libertarian. So I really liked Penn and Teller's bullshit. It was on Showtime. They did a bunch of shows on stuff that was going around, like the vaccination scare, how that was bullshit, how Walmart hate was bullshit. It's actually a really, sorry for the long pause there. It's actually really a very good show. If you're aggressive, you might not really care for it. In fact, they had a couple episodes on religion. One of them is actually on the Bible itself, which, of course, at the time I refused to watch. But I loved this show so much that I went out and I bought Every Day is an Atheism Holiday by Penn Jillette. At the time, even though I bought a book with atheism in the title, I would have never read something called God No, which was out at that time. In reading, which if you haven't read that book, it's pretty funny. It's a short read. Talks about a lot of stories and experiences that he had. It's worth reading, but he also talked about atheism a lot. And I realized he was making a lot of sense. So then I read God No. And again, I really enjoyed it. It's kind of a funny, short read. He made even more sense. So I started watching Richard Dawkins and Christopher Hitchens. And previously being religious, I kind of understand both sides, which is really weird. I know a lot of people out there don't quite experience that. But I used to hate Richard Dawkins, like with a passion. There's just this wall that goes up. If you're religious and you hear Richard Dawkins talk, he just seems so arrogant, which, now that I'm more knowledgeable on evolution and stuff, it's very understandable the way he reacts, because these people are stupid. But when you're religious and you see that, it's just, it's so arrogant. he's just it's really hard to explain. He just, a wall goes up, you ignore what he says, and you think he's an asshole, right? Well, after Penn Jillette, he started making a lot of sense. Oh, he started making a shit ton of sense, and Christopher Hitchens too. And I went out and I bought The God Delusion. I literally stood in a bookshop with God Is Not Great by Christopher Hitchens, and The God Delusion. I made the decision to get Richard Dawkins' The God Delusion. And reading his book, it really opened my eyes, and I realized that I was holding on just because I wanted to believe, not that I actually believed it. And not only that, but it really got me interested in science. The way he explained everything, if I had a teacher that was even half as articulate as he is, I would have loved science. And I would have come to this conclusion a long time ago. So I think that's part of the problem. That's part of the problem, I think, is there's a lot of teachers out there who maybe they're religious, they don't really teach evolution very enthusiastically, or maybe they just don't care and they're just not good at their jobs. But we need to figure out how to push people into... we need to break that wall down. Because once that wall is up, you're not going to convince them. You're not going to convince them. I can tell you from experience. So recently I live in the Midwest, like I said, in America. And recently I had a job where it was really laid back. My boss was really cool. We all kind of had like a friendly... we're all friendly with one another. In fact, my boss actually told me he's an atheist, but only to me privately, because I told a few coworkers I was an atheist. And they looked at me like I was crazy. I couldn't believe I was an atheist. They actually looked at me weird, like they were disgusted by it maybe. I don't know. It really weird vibe off of them when I told them that. It was like, it's got such a negative connotation on here in America that it's like I'm some kind of evil bastard, that I would... How dare I not believe in God? Which is absurd. I think that's an issue, too. It's just that people perceive atheism as being this really bad word. It's almost like they've completely demonized the word to the point where they hear atheist and they think the worst of you. And it kind of shows in the polls, too, where people say they wouldn't vote for an atheist politician, which is also completely fucking bullshit. I don't know what it would take in America to change that. I really don't. I think that Penn Jillette's, really kind lightheartedness is a good way to break down that wall. And then you throw in, once that wall's down, you throw Richard Dawkins or Sam Harris or Christopher Hitchens at them, and they don't stand a chance. There's no way they could believe after that. That's my personal opinion. But that wall sometimes is so hard to get down that it's like a never-ending battle. You just can't win. And that's a problem with religious people. And you watch people like Dinesh D'Souza debate people and about religion, or Deepak Chopra about spirituality, and holy shit, they just sound so stupid, but they don't realize it. No religious person realizes how stupid they sound. They've been so indoctrinated. They believe it. They believe all this stuff. And if you even question them, that wall goes up and you're an asshole. You're an arrogant prick. How dare you? And that is something we need to figure out, how to be like Penn Jillette and break that wall down. And then we can get the Sam Harrises of the world out there, or Sam Harris himself, out there to really convince these people that God doesn't exist. that, ladies and gentlemen, to my 5 viewers, is how I became an atheist. Sorry to keep the rant going on this long. I hope it was at least remotely interesting. I'm going to be making more videos, but this was just more of kind of how to explain how I became an atheist. And living in the Midwest, there's a lot of issues with being an atheist. You could just do a test and go on Facebook and look at people from the Midwest and see how many of them post their religion on their profile. If there's some way to do that, or maybe go to a dating site and look up religious beliefs in the Midwest, and it is unbelievable. I'm basically just one of a handful, it seems. I'm sure there's a lot more out there that aren't vocal, but anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you subscribe.